This is Google Stadia. So I got to check out Stadia Pro because they were doing a 2 free months of access, and I played a bunch of games, and I'm kind of done with it at this point. Well, I mean, if they add other titles, I'll check those out, but you get the gist of what I mean. So, the main focus of my play was their main exclusive title, Gylt. So that is kind of a horror game. You play as a young girl trying to find her cousin, and actually I did thoroughly enjoy it. It's not necessarily the game I would say is the sort of experience that would sell your console and or streaming platform. But it was actually a very lovely time, and had a good sense of horror and some neat gameplay. But we're here to talk about Stadia, and I'll have gameplay from various titles throughout, such as Destiny 2, Grid, I got the Serious Sam collection, and Thumper. So cool. For context, obviously right now during the virus time, I think speeds are a little bit lowered. Today, when I was doing some extra footage, I got 60 megabits download and 16 upload. Usually I get about double that. So I think I was getting closer to that last night, and that's where this Gylt footage is from. And the next Destiny clip that is showing up. So what I noticed, and I really thought that there would be no loading screens, but there were a couple, but for the most part, you don't really have any loading. When you start a game, it just immediately starts. I thought that was very impressive. I found that very interesting because, I mean, usually you have somewhat of a wait and there's all these sign-ins and stuff like that, but the games just play, which is really cool. So, I mean, we have a lot of comparisons to make these days. We've got Project xCloud. That's kind of the big one that I have a lot of experience with, and I was kind of comparing that compared to this. And, yeah, so what I mostly faced, aside from minor bits of loading, which aren't the biggest deal, were a lot of stutters and some FPS drops, depending on the title, and you're probably seeing that with Destiny here. So I thought last night maybe it was running a bit smoother in my mind looking back at this footage. So actually you'll see another clip that kind of repeats a similar area here, but in a slightly different area, just to show that, yeah, even if I lower the resolution a bit, that is still present. One other aspect that I noticed, aside from stutters and some FPS drops, was also that there was a lack of multiplayer. I could not find Crucible matches today or late last night. I could get 8 players and it just sit there forever. We could never get a full kind of Crucible lobby, which is a bit of a disappointment, quite honestly. So yeah, that was weird. Moving past that, we do get some bits of occasional pixelization. So this is the second clip where I play a lower kind of resolution capture, just in case that is taking things away. But it's really easy to capture this kind of stuff because, the computer's not really doing work. We're just playing this off a Chrome browser and then capping the desktop for context there. So I did play primarily off the Chrome browser, but I did also pull out my Pixel 4, and I noticed on the Pixel 4 that there was, it felt about the same gameplay-wise. The Bluetooth controller, I've been using the Xbox One controller for both. Input, not really having any problems or anything like that. But I did notice a lot more pixelization and a little bit more kind of drops on the phone. And I'm right beside where the Wi-Fi connection is for that kind of context, gameplay-wise. Because with this being Stadia, there's not a whole lot of options for how you actually play Stadia at this point, but the goal is to make it available in more and more places. So I thought it was important to at least check out, the phone option too. So it's about the same. So obviously some of the games, some frame drops here or there. This is Serious Sam, which is a lot more gorier than I thought it'd be. I've seen it in the past, and I think I played like a few minutes of it, but yeah, I was not expecting this kind of gameplay. I was like, oh damn, this stuff's intense. Anyways, moving past this, generally it was okay. Gylt, I really didn't have that many problems aside from some stutters and stuff. It played fairly smoothly. These other ones, Destiny 2 seemed to have the most issues. I saw some more in Grid. But these smaller titles, they seem to run quite well. I mean, they're obviously a little bit less demanding and everything like that. My big issue with Stadia is the lack of the games library. That's very minimal even at this point, like 6 months after launch, which is not a good thing, because I mean a big part of gaming is the titles you play, and there just wasn't anything new that enticed me. All these games are games I've played on other platforms years ago. So I'm not really... this one is a lot more pixelization with the racing one. You can see across the screen. That aside, you know, you expect, like, they need to invest in, you know, exclusives or partnerships or something to get some extra grab onto their platform. Because otherwise it's just another way to play games, and I'm already happy with the options I have for gaming, and I find xCloud's going to be a better extension of that. But to focus on Stadia again, they have some interesting features. They've got achievements built in that you can unlock, which I think is essential these days. It's great to see that. They've got voice chat options. They've got a good friends list set up. That kind of ecosystem's well done. Achievements you can't really view though right now. You can unlock them, but you can't really look at them or see what you have or what you haven't unlocked. Or at least I can find that. And even on the mobile, it was kind of like coming soon and stuff. So I was like, oh, okay. So yeah, that was a little bit disappointing. I remember this running way better last night, but I also might have just been really tired when I was recording some of this. Because, you know, some of the clips, like Thumper was from today, the second Destiny, not the moon part, but the middle clip that was a repeat of the first clip was from today. And then everything else was from the other night, kind of recorded when everything seemed, you know, smooth enough. That Gylt footage is probably like the best kind of clean example of it. So there's Thumper going on here. This is kind of a fun game. I just wanted something a little bit more different and colorful. I didn't play a whole lot of Thumper on here because I've already played and stuff. But pretty cool game if you never checked it out. So Stadia is interesting at this point. You know, I wouldn't have checked it out without having like free access to it basically. And I'm not going to keep it after the time is up. I just don't necessarily find the value in this sort of thing, and it's not up to the technical standards that I, you know, appreciate when it comes to my gaming experiences. I think they've got something really neat here, but I think their big focus needs to be on cross-play integration and using this as sort of like a secondary option for games, and working on building an exclusives library while also getting more deals with publishers and stuff, because I looked at their list and it's just kind of like, you know, you got the Tomb Raider games, which is great, fantastic titles. You got Borderlands, pretty good grab. You got Doom Eternal, nice, but there's like such a limited library. I think there's like 30 games or something like that, which is nothing these days. You know, you get thousands and thousands on consoles, you get tens of bazillions on PC, and you get thousands on mobile, millions on mobile. So there's so many options, and to launch a platform and have such a limited selection, like what they should have maybe done is pushed indie titles even further, just like tons and tons and tons of indie titles, because you can get those kind of deals, you know, those smaller games, you can pick them up and add them to your platform just to kind of like build it out a little bit more. But launching just off of the back of Gylt, which Gylt is a lovely game, I did thoroughly enjoy it, but that's just not enough to really launch your platform at all. I'm going back to that. So I didn't obviously get to test the Stadia controller, so I don't have an opinion of that. But overall, I think this is interesting. It might be a little bit ahead of its time in terms of implementation. And who knows, maybe this would run way better with, you know, a more stable connection. But I think I actually, even with the numbers that I, you know, just did off the speed test right before recording this, most people have internet that's a lot lower than that even. Like, this is lower for me, but, you know, for a lot of other people, that's kind of like the gist of what, like, more like double probably what some people's internet speeds are. And you have to take that into account when you are looking at something like this. So I like the idea of just being able to start a game, on any device I want at any point, continuing. But they need to push crossplay more. That needs to be important. They need to build up a player base, and they need to build up a gaming library, because they're kind of just jumping in while not having the right support there. And you can compare their launch to other platforms, and it's like, oh, you know, when new consoles come out, you know, they don't have a lot of games on there. True, but they also have a ton of games in development and on the pipeline that you always see ahead of time, or they have backwards compatible games that they can dip into in order to have a wealth of content. And I'm just really not seeing that with Stadia at this point. You know, like, it's even been like quite a bit of time at this point, and I can't say that I'm necessarily blown away by what they're offering here. So for now, I'm just kind of like, to Stadia. I mean, it's free to check out at this current point, so I guess maybe give it a try and see if it's something that works on your network and for you. But otherwise, it's a waiting game to see if they actually do put in the resources on this one.